Hi, yes, Jackie here with the LGFA, and we're on a call today, a match officials special. We've agreed to call this, and I have three very special guests with me this afternoon. I have Lizzie Flynn, who's the head of match official development with the LGFA, and I have two of our leading referees as well, Jonathan Murphy from Cahill and Maggie Farrelly from Cavan is also on the call. Good afternoon, folks. All good?
Good afternoon, Jackie.
Good stuff. Lizzie, I'm going to come to you first. You might just set the scene for what we're going to be chatting about over the next little while.
Yeah, I suppose really what we're going to talk about and talk with Jonathan and Maggie about is around, I suppose, take a second. Obviously, we have the campaign, Take a Second within ladies Gaelic football. And I suppose when people often talk about, taking a second and showing respect, we as match officials, people often say that referees and match officials aren't given enough respect, but also for us today, maybe Jackie to touch on with Jonathan and Maggie around how we actually as referees, how we can play our part in, I suppose, showing respect and giving the respect to the games that you're appointed to, whether that's, an under 13 league game or a senior All-Ireland. So yeah, just touching on that and maybe how, I suppose, maybe Jonathan's and Maggie's experiences of refereeing, I suppose how they maybe build that into their own refereeing, really.
Absolutely. And just looking back on the history of the campaign, it launched in March 2023. So it's still very much in its infancy and starting to, maybe get some tentacles into right across the association in more recent times. Jonathan, I'll come to you first when we talk about respect and taking a second. What I'm thinking about is take a second before you speak and engage the brain, and that goes for both referees and players. Would that be a fair enough assessment?
I think that would be very fair, Jackie. I think I suppose one of the things we're probably taught is to think fast and walk slow. You know what I mean? So take your time when you're making your decision. When you blow a free, sometimes I think people can be very quick off the mark to maybe shout something or say something, and they mightn't mean it. So you have to I think referees just need to take a second for a minute, and I think communication is probably the key there as well, to communicate to the player, to explain to them what the foul is for and why you're blowing the foul. And I think everything kind of calms down then after that if you're able to have that communication between the players and explain to them why you're given the free.
That's important, Maggie, that you have the open lines of communications with players, because some of them might say, oh, what did you give that for, ref? But when you explain it and break it down, I presume they're more willing to accept the decision.
Yeah, because then you're able to explain to them, what you've seen in terms of what the foul, the foul that has, or the whistle that you've blown, just to indicate what foul has been committed. So it's given you an opportunity to explain yourself, but it's also, for the player to ask the question in terms of, and it's okay for any player to ask the question, okay, so what was the foul for? So it's the manner and how that question is asked, I suppose, and that can be a bit of a trigger point sometimes, for match officials, like, that if it's asked in a challenging way, that sometimes we react maybe in a challenging way towards that, and that shouldn't be the case, because we have to give respect as well, so we do, to everybody.
Maggie, when you think about take a second, I mean, I'm probably thinking about the advantage rule, and you're kind of right. Will I blow it now or will I let it go? But there's many other instances where you probably have to, as Jonathan alludes to, slow down for a second to be sure that you're in your own mind coming to the right decision.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a matter of in terms of how you officiate, having a slow whistle sometimes as well. You just let them maybe play develop maybe for a second. And then you're making up your mind a second or two, and then you're making up your mind in terms of, okay, well, what did I see here? Was there a foul committed? Who committed the foul? And what's the process involved in terms of dealing with that foul? So, so it's having that kind of mindset that don't be too hastened to rush in to make a decision, and I suppose just being calm under pressure when you do have to make a decision.
Lizzie, from an LGFA perspective, the Take a Second campaign, from your own viewpoint, what do you want to get out of this and impart upon referees before they go out and do their stuff on the field of play?
Yeah, look, for me, it was touched on by Jonathan straight away. It's just around the piece around communication. It's that, when somebody engages with us or says something, that we just take a second, take a deep breath before we react or think about that. How it's not always about what we say, it's the how we say it. So I was actually last night with the next group of National Accelerate referees, and a key piece that we covered last night was actually around the communication, the taking a second, the communicating with other officials, not rushing in, but just just really about the how we communicate. So we would have looked at scenarios of how we can show empathy. So a player may go to Jonathan or go to Maggie and say, Jesus, ref, like, you know, but she was pulling my arm. So it's she was pulling my arm first. So it's how we react, how can we communicate back that maybe so, but I'm calling for the first foul, which whatever the first foul, you were the first one to instigate that. So that we're not, it's how we communicate that. So trying to build up a toolbox, I suppose, for referees as well, who are moving up through the ranks to help, I suppose, manage situations. So that's kind of one of the big things. But like one of the key pieces, Jackie, around, and you might know the stats quicker than me, just from the research that was done, is something in around, I'm not sure the percentage, like around 70% or 75% may have said that they've seen a referee or a match official being disrespectful, being disrespected. But also, like, a very high percentage of people saw that players or coaches were shown disrespect by referees. So there's obviously learning in that for us as well as referees and match officials, in terms of like not rush in to react. And we know sometimes the temperature of our game can be high, but it's just that take the second before you reply, or you blow your whistle and you'll walk into the place. You're giving yourself a few seconds to just take a breather. So I think for me, it's trying to build in as much of the how to communicate in a lot of the training we do from grassroots right up.
Is that a skill you have to learn, Johnny? Because Lizzie refers to the stats there. 85% have witnessed a match official being disrespected, right? And I guess that happens quite a bit. It's the nature of the beast. But 70% witnessed a referee being disrespectful towards a player or a coach. So Johnny, it goes both ways from time to time.
And it's all about your language as well, I think, and your communication, I think, as well. Like we keep going back to communication with your language as well, so that you're not raising your voice, you're explaining it, you're calm, you're explaining what the free is for. I do think sometimes, I suppose, it's easier when you're on the field with the players to explain it, and management or selectors or whatever mightn't hear that explanation. And the player is obviously quicker to accept it if they can hear the reason why you've given the free, whereas managers might be losing the rag a small bit on the line because they can't understand. And I suppose communication as well, it's verbal, but it's also use of the hands. If you're able to say that's a pull of the jersey, and if you're visibly making that signal, well, then maybe management and supporters on the line can see why you have given the free, which can stop that ref, what's that for kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. Maggie, is that a skill as well? That you know, it obviously is the whole communication piece, because if a player, as John said, is in your ear, like human nature, you're going to be fairly tempted, I'd imagine, to snap back a little bit, but it's all about the language you use and how you communicate. So that's something I'm sure that as a novice referee, if you take yourself back to the days when you were starting out to where you are now, I'm sure it's evolved massively for you.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think it definitely comes with experience, and the more games you're in, the more your experience develops in terms of how you work with players, how you work with your team officials, and the communication that Johnny has alluded to is like, it's not just the verbal, but it's actually the non-verbal as well, in terms of our signal and how we communicate, or how we look in terms of our, the non-verbal communication, how we look at somebody, like, so we could be giving somebody a dagger's eyes and just like smiling at the same time type of thing, so it's just making sure that our communication is very, very clear, and it comes with your confidence then as well, like, so it's a time that you have, when you start out to where you're at now. Sometimes, when you're starting out, you feel a wee bit threatened because somebody's asking you a question and this is not something that maybe that you're used to. So again, with that experience, then you're maybe a little bit more confident in yourself and confident in the decision that you've actually made to why you've actually blown the whistle, and with that, then you're able to explain then in terms of what you've seen. So I blew the whistle because I seen you holding the arm or whatever it was, or your hand was in around the body, so you're able to explain that to them and let them know in terms of what you've seen as the foul that's committed.
And Maggie, how important is your team of officials then to help you out in an increasingly fast-paced game where, you know, you're making split-second decisions, but you're also reliant on your officials to help you out and at key moments during any game? And I'll put that to you as well, Jonathan, after Maggie's answer.
Yeah, so I suppose, like, you know, our umpires are people that we have, you know, worked with on a week-to-week basis, day-to-day basis, you know, with a number of games that we're officiating with throughout the week. So you're working on a continuous basis there. However, with the likes of the, you know, in the National League and Championship, like, you're working with new officials all the time. So it's having, I suppose, that debrief before you come to a game. Like, so I'd always like to, you know, phone somebody up before the game and just chat through what I expect and in terms of managing the expectations of the team within that team of officials for that game for Saturday or Sunday. And then you're just reiterating all the key points in terms of how we deal with situations or, you know, reporting incidents and that we're using the language of the rule book and in doing so. And then again at halftime, you're debriefing, seeing what, you know, like you're just sort of evaluating what has happened in the first half. Is there anything that we could do better in the second half, and so on, and likewise at the end of the game. So the communication piece is massive, but it is very much determined by the use of the wording of the language in the rule book as well, to help us adjudicate on what the issue is. You know, so it's the knowledge of the rule book as well is key.
Yeah, that's massive, and I'll come back to that, Maggie, because when I'm with some of our fixtures and there's people there who are maybe not aware that our rules differ from the men's game, there can be this little bit of confusion from time to time. But Jonathan, the importance of a team and working alongside your fellow officials on the day is absolutely crucial.
Absolutely. I mean, help is a lot of it, and familiarity with your own umpires, I suppose, to start off with. I mean, that trip to the car, that chat in the car, what we're expecting. You're covering scenarios. If this happens, if that happens, you're talking through. If something happens, what do we do? And I think even prior to that, it's if you're going somewhere new, you're mapping your route. You're there probably an hour and 15 minutes. Allow a bit of time for maybe something going wrong or a wrong turn. That's all pre-match kind of preparation, and respect to all the teams that you're there on time and you're properly attired, and little small things like that. If players see in the spot a team of officials, maybe 6 or 7 officials, all coming in suited and booted, ready to go, I think that's a great sign to give to first. Like this, they can say, like, okay, this man or woman means business. They know what they're doing and they respect it. You know what I mean? And you'd be hoping that respect will be reciprocated then on the field when the game starts.
Jonathan, I hope you don't mind me asking you, because I know that last year was a massive final for you, the Galway-Kerry game at Croke Park, and Jim Tracy had been with you for so long. So I suppose, first of all, how did you get through the game emotionally, and secondly, how did you feel after the game? What was your mindset?
Emotionally, it was tough. It was tough, probably the lead up to it and before the game started. Very, very tough. But I think, like any scenarios, when the ball is thrown in, everything is forgotten about Jackie. Not to say he was forgotten or anything like that, but we're so used to just switching off and concentrating on the game or concentrating on what's in front of us. But yeah, after there was a bit of relief, some more tears again, I suppose. But
of course,
that would have been his first final ever to miss. I know Maggie has been with me on a couple of finals, would have met him. An absolute gentleman, an old sake man would tell you what you need to hear sometimes, you know, maybe when it's only the two of us in the car. We could have right old ding dongs about something, but that was the honesty of him, and he was a good man and he was great to me, and he would have been delighted first.
Absolutely. No, I hope you don't mind me mentioning. I thought it was apt
No, not at all.
to bring him into the conversation today, Johnny, particularly considering the magnitude of the game that you had. Maggie, just in terms of that piece about the magnitude of a game, are you more conscious the bigger the game, the more time you need to take mentally to make what you believe is the right decision? Or is it a case that every game is the same? I referee every game the same, that, you know, some players talk about it's just another game, but, you know, an All-Ireland final is different to any other game, Maggie.
Yeah, for sure. But again, it's you trust in the process in terms of your preparation, and I'm a key believer in that. Like, you know, the preparation is key in terms of your success on the pitch. Like, you know, we all know how unpredictable sport can be, And, you know, like you might feel that maybe a team maybe has a tag, maybe going in as favourites or whatever, but you just completely eliminate that because you don't know what's going to happen over the duration of this next 60 minutes. So for me, it's that if I'm refereeing a club game down home in Cavan, that my preparation is no different than in terms of what I referee at National League or in Championship for the LGFA at national level. Of course, yes, the closer you get to the end of the competitions, there's more at stake. There's more at stake for everybody with the 30 players on the pitch and the management team and the counties behind and so on. So you're just fine tuning absolutely everything. So yeah, you know, and you're for me, it's just getting really familiarized with the rules and everything else that goes with it in terms of your preparation.
Good stuff. Lizzie, I'm going to finish off with a couple of final questions. Back to you first. We're heading towards the new year, 2025, and best wishes to everybody over the festive season. So, what is life like for you in your role as you oversee and try to get a team of officials ready for the new year?
No, it is. They mightn't think, but it is busy on this end. So, I suppose with Jonathan and Maggie, I suppose we're out now. They've got an extra week this week. We're out on the 11th of January for their National Referee Day, so they'll have their fitness test on that day. We'll have quite a bit to get through, I suppose, just in terms of fitness tests. We've been doing the gold standard, the yo-yo test over the last number of years, whereas in January, all the referees I think will have seen it and will be encouraged to practice. They have it. We have a test, and I know Maggie was part of the group who kind of was part of the pilot over the last couple of months. So that's coming in January. So it'll be interesting, I suppose, to see how that goes and how referees get on with that. So it's kind of a battery test, really. But I suppose over the last kind of maybe 2 or so years since I've been involved, we've done a lot of work with performance sports. We've been working with stat sports, and I suppose what I suppose the information coming back from the GPSs and the stats is just that in terms of what's covered, but what the proposal of the new fitness tests will maybe be more in line with what the referees are doing, kind of more game specific. So kind of looking forward to that actually with them now in the new year, and a little bit nervous to see how that goes, but I think they'll all be, as long as they're putting in their work, Jackie, they'll be fine. So yeah, so it's basically kind of getting ready for that, and then we have a fairly large group of 10 on the National Accelerate program. So we hope to see a lot of them kind of come through and maybe come in January and hopefully get them out early enough in the new year in the maybe Division 4, 3 or 4, get a couple of games under their belt and get them maybe doing line or fourth with maybe the likes of Jonathan or Margaret, so that they're kind of getting a spread of experiences like with different people. So I suppose trying to get them active now early enough would be a kind of a priority, and embed them hopefully onto the panel would be great.
Very good. Jonathan, will you get to take a second over the festive period and have some turkey and ham, or are you conscious of what you're putting into your body at the same time?
I think it's a kind of a balancing act sometimes. I think you have to enjoy sometimes, because by God, we do have a busy, like, even we were out last week, myself and Maggie were above in Galway, and it is go. Like, you have 2 or 3 weeks there that maybe you mightn't be doing anything, but still you're conscious of the fitness test that's coming. But I think a balance of it is fine, Jackie. You know what I mean? You have to have that shut off period as well, because I think you'd go a bit mad otherwise.
Maggie, same as it ever was. You're looking forward to another year on the circuit.
Oh yeah, looking forward to it, surely. Yeah. So again, you're just fine tuning everything. So you are in terms of your preparation for the fitness test, and just making sure that you're injury free and you're there in terms of your performance as well.
Good stuff. I wish you well, folks. Lizzie, anything else you need to touch on, or have we covered all the bases there?
No, I think we've covered all the bases there now, Jackie. So it's been great now to have, I suppose, input from 2 of our top referees in the country. So thanks a million, Maggie and Johnny, for giving us the time today, to myself and Jackie.
Absolutely. I have 2 of the best in the business, I'd have to say, Lizzie, from the outside looking in. So guys, we'll wrap it up. So many thanks to Lizzie Flynn, head of match official development with the LGFA, and 2 of the best in the business, Jonathan Murphy from Cahill and Margaret Farrelly From Cavan, enjoy the festive period, and we'll see you guys all safe and well, please God, in the new year. Thanks a million, folks.
Thanks very much, Jackie.
Thank you.